Hello, I'm Karen Christensen, and this is the Way We Live Now podcast. But we're focused on third places today and, well, a lot of related things. I'm here with Antoine Burret, who I've spoken to before and we've recorded before, but not for ages. So welcome back,
Thank you very much.
Antoine. It's great to see you.
Great to see you too. Nice to meet you.
Um, Antoine is the author of a book, the only book, original French book on third places, tiers lieux, that was published in 2024, I think?
2023, actually, at the end of
2023. All right. And he's doing some very interesting work now and has a wide-ranging background. So we're gonna range a bit today. But welcome. Tell us a bit about what you're doing now, how your work has evolved since we last spoke.
For 1 year, I create with a lot of partner a European organization, an association, focus on cafe and bistro, more cafe,
Uh-huh.
and cafe culture in Europe. You know, the cafe is for me is an archetype, is the archetypal third places uh,
Uh-huh.
in Europe, more or less. And we have here, how can I say that, an history with cafe in Europe. And for 20 years, 30 years, we see that there is less and less cafe. There is a big change with the cafe culture. There is a big change with sociability. And we saw that there is some impact of this disappearance of cafe in Europe. So we want to
Uh-huh.
focus on that culture and to fight that cafe can be recognized as a social and political infrastructure. So that's the main
Uh-huh.
topic and the main objective of
Uh-huh.
our association. The association's name is Europa Cafe. We have 1 year, and it's good. I'm very happy.
Okay, when we'll put the link to that in the notes. I have one. This is going to sound very simplistic, but what's the difference between a cafe and a bistro?
It's a big story. There's no main difference. Bistro at the beginning, it's argot word. It's a Polish word uh,
Ah.
for place where people can drink and eat something. And a cafe is the same stuff in a way. But with cafe, with a world cafe, we have an history. There's an intellectual idea with cafe. There's something that's for me is more, not for me, it's more understandable for all Europe. When you talk about cafe, you think
Uh-huh.
about some intellectual. We think about the idea of a political impact of cafe. Bistro is more or less an argot. It's another way to say the same word, but I think that we decide to use the term cafe because it's, I think, more impact. There is more impact.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And there's no difference in the hours that they tend to be open.
No, 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 no. You
Uh-huh.
know, when you say cafe, for example, in Austria, you have the idea of the historical cafe. When you say cafe
Uh-huh.
in Czech Republic, you have the idea of the intellectual cafe.
Uh-huh.
No, not problem of time. It's more or less a link with the history of that kind of place. So it's why we choose cafe. There's not big difference.
It's understandable everywhere.
Yeah.
Yes. That really does make sense. I've thought about this because I've thought a lot about the time of day in terms of third places,
Mm.
because there are in the US, very often nowadays, restaurants are open like breakfast and lunch, or lunch and dinner, or just dinner. So they don't have that. I mean, I hear of places in Europe, they're not open 24 hours a day, but they're open you could have coffee and a croissant in the morning, and you could have a glass of wine in the evening
Mm.
or some dinner. And that kind of continuity, I think,
Yeah.
and it creates an informality, a kind of, spontaneous, you know, s way that you can drop in when you happen to have time.
Yeah. But you can't. In Europe, we have the same problem. There is as I told you, there is a change in the way we use cafe, and there is a more and more cafe that are open as with the American model, because there is a lot of chain now, like Starbucks or a chain like that. So they are
Yeah.
only commercial place. It's why with Europa Cafe we focus on what we call purpose cafe. It's some cafe
Uh-huh.
that voluntarily decide to have a mission for social, for culture, or for politics. So there is
Uh-huh.
this difference. There is all the cafe that change because they are facing a lot of problem with economical problem in majority.
Uh-huh.
And you have this kind of purpose cafe, this kind of cafe that want to take responsibility for one topics, for the social topics, for political topics, for cultural topics. Generally, this kind of cafe are associative. They are this governance model, associative model, or cooperative
What
model.
does and what does that mean? How does that actually work?
I don't understand. Sorry.
How does that work? Do you mean it's not they're newly set up or funded in a different way?
They are funded in a different way. They are created in a different way. It can be a private cafe, but it's an
Uh-huh.
association, ONG, NGO, sorry,
Uh-huh.
kind of NGO fund, depending of the country, a cooperative cafe. So
Uh-huh.
they are built different, and they are organizing different.
And are they all new, or could it be an adaptation of one that already existed?
It depends. Some cafe can start with a private model and change, by the way, because in the time they decide to focus on one topic. Uh,
Uh-huh.
mm, it's just a way to finance difference, and to assume a different identity.
But they're nonprofit, but they're actually commercial. So how does that work?
It's simple. They are non-profit. They are commercial, but the goal is not to make profits. It's to be there and to make some activities. It's not to
Uh-huh.
to have some profit for the owner. It's only an organization. It's like an NGO. But
Uh-huh. And they're owned by, and where are they located? There's in England, I talked to there, and they're not very many of them, but community-owned pubs,
yeah,
which are similar, which would be set up as a nonprofit.
exactly.
Um, but it's quite challenging. The one that I did a recording podcast with, the Greenwich Arms, they were forced to close. The landlord, pulled the lease or pulled the agreement. And, so that wasn't, it wasn't very stable, which is the shame, because it had it had been a regular pub for, who knows how long. I don't remember how old it was, but it could have been many decades for sure, if not hundreds of years.
Mhm.
And then it was for a period was community owned, but that that was, then it didn't last. And so I'm very interested in business models for third places, new models. When people say, that it's become more difficult to maintain some of the traditional places, so it's interesting. But, if you can, I think people would be interested to know how it works and whether you think the model that you're using is replicable.
Okay, but I can't say that that kind of model is sustainable.
Uh-huh.
It's not really true. Even a community cafe, an associative cafe, are facing a lot of problem, and it's just another way to exist. And it's why I told to you about the idea of identity. Uh,
Uh-huh.
it's more a position to be positioned as as a community space more than a commercial space. And it
Uh-huh.
changed in a way the public react. It changed in the activities that exist in the cafe because they are the purpose. They are here
Mhm.
only for commercial purpose. They are here for social and political purpose. But there's no miracle. It's really hard for all the associative world is the same. So it's just another way to exist, but it's not America at all. It's very difficult.
But what about the traditional, the long-standing cafes and bistros in France and like pubs in England? They, many of them have closed, but they obviously still exist.
They still exist. Yes, they want to exist. It's more like that. We have a huge history with cafe, but there is so many economical problem and use problem. The client change. For example, I give you an example.
Uh-huh.
I was talking with the president of the organization called Bistro et Café de France, and with another organization.
Uh-huh.
And we were remember of when we were teenager. She's older than me, but even me, when I
Uh-huh.
was teenager, when I have some free time in school, I was going directly to the cafe. I stayed there. I
Uh-huh.
stayed there with one coffee for 5, 6, 7 hours. It was
Yeah.
cheap, and
Yeah.
it was okay. Everybody was used with that. We stay there. We
Mm-hmm.
play card. We work on our study with one coffee.
Uh-huh.
Now, mm, more or less, students didn't go to cafe for for that kind of habitude. They go maybe in a square. They go in another place because it's too expensive. Because there's a lot of cafe that didn't accept to stay there 5 hours for nothing
Uh-huh.
or one coffee. So
Uh-huh.
you have this pressure, economic. The people who own cafe had this pressure, economical pressure, and it's why I like this community cafe, because they accept more or less this kind of use. So what I want to say is that you have two factors that change the presence of cafe in France and in Belgium, in Germany, and all the European countries.
Uh-huh.
The first one is the economical pressure, and the second one is that sociability change
Uh-huh.
with the digital, change because of the economical pressure, and it's very expensive. For example, I live in Geneva. A cafe
Uh-huh.
is Swiss franc, more or less 4 or 5 euro. It's really
Uh-huh.
expensive. So if I am a student, or if I don't have all day, I can't stay all day long in a cafe. And as Oldenburg said, because he was writing that a long time ago, there is a lot of private activity. There is a lot of activity that before you can only do that in a cafe or a bar, and now you can do that at home. For example, a billard, some play, some loisir. Before you do
Uh-huh.
that in the cafe, because there was the only place when you can watch the television, watch
Uh-huh.
a match, football match, and now you do it at home. I give you another
Uh-huh.
example. With the Europa Cafe, we create a program for the French election. Last
Uh-huh.
month, it was the
Yeah.
municipality election. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and in
Yeah.
every municipality, there is some debate,
Uh-huh.
okay, between the candidates. Okay,
Uh-huh.
so we try to ask cafe to show the debates in all the city. So we work with
Uh-huh.
50 cafe, and they had to
Uh-huh.
present the debate on the television for the people,
Uh-huh.
the clients.
Uh-huh.
It was really nice, but it was really innovative, really new, because everybody watched the debate at home. And for us, it was more interesting to watch debate together. It was for us, it was very important that people can watch this kind of political moment together, and the cafe is the best place for that. And now it looks really innovative, really new, really wow. Um,
Because people often do like to watch sports together as well,
yeah,
and this is a debate Ray and I had because he felt that TVs in bars were terrible, and I sort of agree, and yet I see the way I've watched the way people will start to talk to each other. Strangers will start to talk to each other if they're watching sports together
yeah.
because it just gives them something. Where I live, it's we're sort of between Boston and New York,
Mhm.
so it's always, "Are you a Red Sox fan? You're not. cheering for the New York Yankees. So that's a real icebreaker for people, for men in particular, but I mean, even for women here because of this particular competition. But I remember once I was on the street in Boston and just walking down, and there was some important game going on that was playing. It sounds like something from the 50s, but I swear to God, I saw this in person. It was near a college, but there was a TV playing with the game in the window of a shop. And there were people standing on the sidewalk together watching,
Cool.
hanging out. And people will do that. I mean, it's good that you do, because there are going to be lots of young people, especially since COVID, who never experienced that, right?
Yeah.
And so, even what you're doing with the debates gives people the chance to just say, yeah, it is kind of good to cheer or groan or whatever you do with other human beings. I mean, it's a little practice sociability.
Yeah, it's only the watching part. It's really simple, as you can say. It's watching
Right.
party, but political
Right.
element. But I think that coffee was made for that. Coffee,
Yeah.
and we have to reactive that use.
Now, where have you seen? I'm curious about political conversation in general in public places, especially it was because I've been reading and listening to things about the recent election in Hungary and about the way the Magyar who won had to campaign by actually going and talking to people all over the country because he couldn't get on the television because it was controlled by his opponent. And that and apparently he's really good at face-to-face interaction and would go to villages. I heard that he'd gone to 700 villages. But you have spent time, as I believe, in Eastern Europe
Mm-hmm.
and in Cuba.
Mm-hmm.
And where else? I mean, Cuba's an interesting case, and of course, Eastern Europe's an interesting case. Have you had a chance to see how is there any political conversation that you've observed or been part of in those countries?
In cafe, you mean?
In cafe in particular? Or in public. I mean, I think of it because I've done a lot of stuff with people in China, and it's really striking. I don't know that it has to do with cafes, but it has to do with being able to talk face to face. I hear things from people either if they visit the States or even talking, if you're out, somewhere where you don't feel you might be observed or listened to.
Mm.
In China, I learn things I would never learn by any kind of digital communication.
So I'm lived 10 years in Eastern Europe, in Romania and Serbia. And Romania was a little bit different because when I was there, it was the end of the communism and the start with the European Union. And it was a kind of free movement like that, or where everybody can talk of politics, etc. And yes, we used to do that in cafe all night long with drinking a lot, smoking a lot. But it's not for me the most important because with communism they couldn't do that for you for a while, and after that there was a kind of liberation. In Serbia, what was interesting, they create some cafe in apartments. For a long time, they could talk. They couldn't talk freely about everything, so they create some cafe, alternative cafe in some apartment, and they do that also in Cuba. Now it became an attractive of a tourist attraction. It's more or less a restaurant for tourists. But in Serbia, for a long time, they stayed for a place in some apartments where you can go and you drink and you speak about stuff, etc. And I work with a teacher and personality, political personality in Serbia. And maybe, Serbia actually faced an autocratic regime. So it's kind of hard for them. And I asked her if it still exists, that kind of apartment. And she said, no, there's no more stuff like that. So, in Serbia, you have some states cafe in a way. It's some folklorical cafe, old cafe.
Uh-huh.
And
Uh-huh.
you go there to eat, you go there to dance, to make party, but
Mm-hmm.
you don't speak politics at all because it's too dangerous. But there
Uh-huh.
is some community cafe, cultural community cafe.
Uh-huh.
People go there.
Mm-hmm.
And what was interested is that this personality, she's a great personality in cultural policy in Serbia and Eastern Europe. And she fight a long time for creating all the political cultural policy in Eastern Europe. And
Uh-huh.
this cultural policy is more or less an institutional cultural policy made created by states, for states, etc. And with these autocratic movements in those countries, the cultural place started to be it's started to be difficult to talk freely there, to speak about
Uh-huh.
things, to
Uh-huh.
create some movement.
Yeah.
So people go in cafe, in community cafe. There is some community
Uh-huh.
cafe in Serbia, and everything, all the teenager, all the student movement that is happening right now
Uh-huh.
in Serbia,
Yeah.
is run in cafe. So they go there, they
Uh-huh.
create some speech, they try to work and to change the country. There's my cat. Sorry.
We welcome cats on this podcast.
I will open the door for you. Oh, yes, yes.
I have 2 cats, and I don't think they've ever come on the podcast. They're very shy. They're feral, actually. They're not very social cats.
Yeah.
Um, do you think there's potential for this kind of, if things are too expensive, this kind of apartment cafe? I mean, Ray used to talk about that because he felt strongly that there should be you need to have places to go that are close by, and that zoning in America has meant that, there's often nothing anywhere close by. And he said, "Why couldn't you, if you had a spare room, the suitable room, open that and just have it be, coffee and a place that people could come?" And I've thought about that because people do talk all the time, even in the States, about the cost of going out.
Mhm.
It's for many people, of course, it's not gonna get any easier with what's going on in the world. Just that, and Starbucks has set, has set prices so high, and of course, I hardly ever buy a coffee out because I just think it's so expensive. If it were always what I said to someone, "If I were in Italy or France and it was gonna be good coffee, I wouldn't mind so much."
Yeah. So your question is that if there is a
The question is, do you think there's potential for that? I mean, do you think that
no, for me, what I like in that
yeah.
in that
Mhm.
model is that is how can I say that illegal? It's not a legal model. It's
Right.
and I think it's good because there is some to create some place for their own and because they didn't have the choice. So I don't know if there is a future for that. I think there is a future for purpose cafe. Yes, I'm sure of that.
Mhm.
But that kind of cafe is more or less illegal.
Mhm. What,
But
what country
when Remsenberg created his own cafe in his garage, it was illegal to know.
right. Well, it was a bar. No, because he didn't charge.
Ah,
So it was
exactly.
there was no money exchanged. It's when there's any money exchanged. And, of course, depending on the area, if you had a lot of cars parking,
Mm.
neighbors can complain. But if you said it was just
Okay.
you were just having a party, that wouldn't be an issue. Now in England, well, actually, it's apparently widespread. What do they call them? Pub sheds. There is a pub shed of the year competition.
Okay.
It's people converting some part of their home, a garage or maybe a garden shed, I don't know, a room, into something that looks very much like a traditional pub. They'll hang horse brasses and pewter cups and all this and do the flocked wallpaper and do all the stuff that is associated with the pub. I'm pretty sure that they don't charge, although who knows? Maybe there's a cup that people
Yeah.
throw in money for. I think, as long as your neighbors didn't, as long as it wasn't disruptive, you could probably
Yeah.
do it. But it's a huge movement. I looked on Facebook, and there's like pub shed groups. There's thousands and thousands of members.
Nice. Yeah.
So it was very much what Ray had in mind. But of course, the nice thing about the pub shed is that really fit with his idea is it does sound like it was they're kind of geared to people who live nearby,
Mhm.
the way a pub was. I mean, to try and recreate the local,
Mhm.
which is I, certainly that was the concept with bistros and cafes. Do you think that has largely disappeared? I mean, Paris is really working to make itself pedestrian friendly,
Yeah.
and that was the idea, that you would go to the restaurant or the bistro, the cafe that was near your home, that you would make a regular stop there.
Yeah. 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 You have a cafe. It's the 5 minutes concept. I don't remember the name exactly of the 5 minute city. 5 minute city.
Yeah,
Paris is one of the model for 5 minute city. And yes, you can find some cafe and bistro everywhere. It's true. It's true. But as I told you, if you stay and talk with people in Paris or in other city, and you've been in Europe, not for a while, everybody had a place where they go often, near
mhm.
their place or their work. But they go often, but they don't stay. That's the different. That's the difference.
Uh-huh.
They, I'm, I stay focused with Oldenburg, but he understood a lot of things when he said that before you, you went in a cafe to meet friends because all your friend was there, and now you go in the cafe with your friend, and you have
Right.
the same phenomena here. It's the same phenomenon. You go in the cafe with your friend. It's the cafe is no more the place where you know that all your friends will be there. So you have this change. So yes, we have a lot of cafes, and in Paris, in Marseille, in everywhere. There's a lot of places like that. But they didn't play the same role that it used to play. And we feel this change. There is a lot of social problem in Europe with a lot of disparity between people, polarization, as you say.
Mhm, mhm.
And we can see that kind of the growing of polarization follow the same is correlates with the disappearing of cafe.
Yeah.
There is a scientific study that just appeared 2 months ago that showed that in France, in country, in a city, in a city village, where all the coffee disappear, you see that the far right vote grow, and you see a
Uh-huh.
correlation between growing of the far right and this radical movement and the disappearing of cafe. Cafe was there to leverage. Oldenburg was saying that.
Yes, to level people, to connect people. It's finding, you know,
And now,
it getting to know people in different ways, in different settings, and in a regular setting. It's transformative to be with the same people
yeah,
over and over and over again.
it's what is really interesting in our continent. It's because it's something that is part of our culture. It's something that for 400 years
Yeah.
we were built like that, and we saw for 20 years that that kind of use, that kind of way of living together is changing. As I told you, when we were met, I grew in a cafe. My parents own a cafe. So I know I am used to stay and to live with all kind of people, very different because we are living in the same city or in the same neighborhood. Now I am 40 years old and I can't do it. I can do that. So I have my coffee. I
Mhm.
go to my coffee, every day or every 2 days, but I only speak with the barman. I didn't know all the people around me. So
Right.
cafe didn't play the same role, and it's what I want to fight for that because we need
Yeah.
that, especially
Yes.
in a continent that is so much changing, socially changing right now. We need that.
So how does it work in the cafes in your network? Uh, who goes to them? Do you get a mix of people, or try do the cafes try to bring more people in with different,
We are not an
from different backgrounds?
an organization that own cafe.
Yeah.
We are creating a network in a way, you can say that, a
Yeah.
network of cafes
Yeah.
at the European level. It's a platform, we call a European
Uh-huh.
platform for
Uh-huh.
purpose cafe. So the idea is that there is a lot of cafe in Europe that try to make something good for society, for democracy, for some
Uh-huh.
social link, etc. They on their own, with their own money, they try to make some activity. They try to propose something to their client, try to propose something to their neighbor. But they do that on their own. And it's really hard because it's cost a lot and it's complicated. And in the same time, you have a lot of philanthropic activity that want to make the same activity, but they didn't focus on cafe. They didn't
Uh-huh.
work with cafe because cafe is in the general idea, it's commercial. So they don't fit with
Right.
people.
Yes.
And our job is to create that link. Okay, you have some cafe. We want to make. We'll create some really good stuff. We'll make some really impactful activity. You have some philanthropic organization who want to be more impactive also. And we have all
Uh-huh.
cafe that they are everyday place. They exist.
Right,
So you
it's
can
they're there, and they're
to
generally well located. Yeah, I see that divide where you have anything that's commercial kind of gets segregated,
mm,
but and then the nonprofit activity where it would be logical, reasonable to have things that work together.
exactly.
Um,
There is
yeah.
all that all that map of cafe in Europe. It's incredible. We are thousands and thousands of cafe in all Europe, and have to do that link. We have to help them to be more impactful on what they want to do socially, politically, culturally, and it's possible.
Right, because even if people don't buy many coffees, I'm sure there are places that just need more business. They need more people coming and going.
You know,
As a business, if you were running a business, if you had a cafe that was a business, you want people
you know
there.
when I was working on that project that I told you with the election, blah blah blah.
Mm.
At the beginning, I was really afraid because in my mind, I was saying, "Well, I'm pretty sure that coffee owner didn't want to uh, to take part on the election
Uh-huh.
because
Uh-huh.
they will be afraid that with their clients it would be complicated, blah blah blah." And it was my mind when I start working on that,
Yeah.
and I start talking with thousands of coffee, and all of them, wow. Okay, let's do it. We are made for that. All people were saying, I create that cafe for that. I want to be
Uh-huh.
of
Uh-huh.
infrastructure. I want to be a social infrastructure. So they are not running business. They are
Mm.
running social infrastructure, and they are conscious of that. And it's why I'm really convinced in
Uh-huh.
that activity with Cafe Europa Cafe and the future of cafe in Europe, because the owner of cafe take the risk to create cafe not for making money because they didn't make money. To be honest, they are not some big brand. They don't want to fight with brands. They want to link people. They want to that people met, speak, and live together. And they create those kind
Uh-huh.
of cafe for that.
Mhm. I'm not surprised. But I'm delighted because I think that we need to see a lot more of that, and it does take an effort to get people out of their houses and to get together.
Yeah, but
That
in the same time, people need that, and there is a more and more need for that. But the problem is that expensive. You know, I was running for the election in my little city. Okay, for the
Uh-huh.
municipality, I
Uh-huh.
was running. I don't know. Okay, and in my project, in the project of my team, it was coffee and social infrastructure. We want to create coffee,
Uh-huh.
but
Uh-huh.
the only way that a public authority can create coffee and helps sociability is to create some associate on community cafe. We could
Uh-huh.
not create some commercial cafe. And
Uh-huh.
to be honest, I'm living in a little city near to the border of Switzerland. Okay,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
what do you want that? Everybody wants to go out to meet people, but it's expensive, and you want to stay there and to have the time and to meet a lot of
Right,
people.
to be
You
relaxed,
want.
to not be run out the door, feel that you're not welcome
So for
because you're
me,
not
the
yeah,
problem is not
yeah.
it's not hard to make people going out. People want to going out. People are bored of social network, etc., etc.
Uh-huh.
They want to
Uh-huh.
meet, but you have to create the context. You have to create a
Yeah.
cheaper cafe, but cozy cafe. And
Uh-huh.
there is a lot of factors that do it really well now.
Uh-huh. Finally, could you explain, because you know this well, what the different uses of the term third place or tiers-lieu in France and or in Europe generally? Can you just
Yeah, it's really funny that also you say third place and tier, yeah, as it's something different, but it's not something different. It's the same.
I am in the book that I'm finishing. I'm actually I'm just making a lot of distinctions
And there
because
is
there
no
are
distinction.
yeah.
It's a big problem, and it's a political world, I can say. So you have this concept of third place that in France it's arrived in our country in Francophonie, not even in France, Belgium, in African country, in
Uh-huh.
Canada, in Quebec. It's arrived here with the co-working movement and the libraries. So first time we heard about this concept with library and co-working, but nobody read Aldenberg. Nobody, even me, I didn't read Aldenberg for a while. Okay, so
Yeah.
I just watched the translation of the word third places, tiers lieu, and in the French tiers, it's not the third; it's something more complex. So
Uh-huh.
we start phantasming, I can say that, with phantasm or fantasy, I don't know, about this third place. It's kind of, Foucault, Michel Foucault,
Uh-huh.
philosopher,
Yes.
he
Yes.
created the concept of heterotopia. But heterotopy, it's a place that can be another place. Like, for
Uh,
example, when you are a kid and you make your in your bed like a temple.
uh-huh. Uh-huh.
So it's not you're in your bed, but you are in a castle, and this is
Yep.
heterotopia. You are in a boat. You are in a I don't know.
Yep.
So this
Yep.
is heterotopia for Foucault. And in French, we linked the word third place, tiers lieu, to this concept heterotopia. So for us, third place, tiers lieu was another place. And we focused this concept on that place that appear at that period in 2010, 2009, new
Uh-huh.
alternative place, hybrid place where people mix some activities. And we say, okay, it was the beginning, the full beginning of digital activities, Fab Lab,
Yeah.
blah,
Yep.
blah, blah. And we say, okay, that kind of place that we didn't know, it's new. There is some new activity, and we will call it third places. We call it tiers lieu. And I work on that. I create a manifest for that, a special text for that.
Uh-huh.
I create a community for that, and it worked really well. Actually, it worked so well that the in 2017 the government decide to build a kind of public policy, especially on that kind of place to sustain
Mhm.
new kind of job
Yep.
and digital activities in
Mhm.
a way. And yeah, but at the moment, the problem is that kind of place that we call third place tiers lieu was not linked, it was only linked on activities, economies, industries. It was some micro industries. That's why what I
Mhm.
was saying. In the
Uh-huh.
third place, we create some micro industries with all the digital stuff, blah, blah, blah. And for me, it was incredible, awful. I say, okay, we missed something. We create that place. We use that concept to name that kind of place because they had some alternative way of living. They show an alternative
Uh-huh.
way of living. It was not something on alternative production. It was alternative way of living, alternative way of meat. Because we started to be. I have from friends who were saying that what we want, what's saying in 2010, what we
Uh-huh.
want to do is Facebook at home. Okay, Facebook, I don't know, Facebook en bas de chez soi, in front of your house, more or less that. In your building, Facebook in your building.
Right.
That's true. So, and with that public policy,
What a horrible idea.
with that idea, with that public policy, we realized that sustainability is not the focus point. So it's why I decided to work again on that concept and to refocus on what Aldenberg was saying because it was really interesting. And yeah, finally, I link all that way of thinking about third place with what was what was created by Oldenburg at the beginning. So now in France, because it's especially in France, it's only in France, to be honest. Third place is tiers lieu is understood as a word for urbanists for alternative place, hybrid place. It's not for cafe, for example. And
Right.
public
That's the
policy,
startling thing to me
yeah, yeah.
that it took me a while to grasp that it's not
No,
uh, people call a lot of different things third places,
yeah.
and I would argue that that's a mistake. It's an easy mistake to make because there's not always a term that is appropriate, and so
But
people grab onto it.
in a way, I think, and I wrote it in my book that it's the it's because Oldenburg create this world as a as a brand. He created that to be remembered. He didn't create a concept that is really strict. He created something punchy, sexy.
Mhm.
He was saying third place because for him it was easy to use it. It was easy to understand. So it was really a marketing word. And in France,
And like a little too successful.
yeah,
But have you heard of slow food?
yeah,
Because slow food was successful in a very similar way. When it started, it meant something very particular.
yeah,
Traditional support for very traditional osterias in Italy.
yeah, yeah,
But it then started to be applied to all kinds of things. And the organization has become something quite different.
yeah.
It's not That's not its focus at all now.
Yeah, it's the same with third place exactly. But there is a as for slow food, even if it's in slow food, there were no public policy on that. Here,
Mm, yeah,
especially in France, it was so much money gave for third places, so much
right.
with the promise that they will create job, money, etc. And it's not true. They didn't create a job. No job
Mm,
was third place. So
right.
all
Yeah.
the city
Yeah.
that gave money for third place to create jobs, they are really sad. Say, oh, it didn't work. Third place didn't work, so we didn't finance it. So you have a lot of organization that make beautiful stuff that
Mm,
now they didn't have any money. It's finished.
mhm,
You know,
mhm.
5 years ago, it was a budget with 50 millions of euro for that. Hundreds of millions. I don't remember exactly. I think it's
Yeah.
hundreds of millions
Yeah.
of euro. Now,
Yeah.
for this year, it's zero. So you have a lot of organizations that are waiting for money, and now there's nothing.
Mhm.
It's
I
complicated.
see.
It's
Yeah.
complicated.
Yeah. Yeah. So that I mean, I'm certainly addressing that to some extent, although it's, in the new Great Good Place,
Well, yes.
because it is something that that surprises people. There have been many surprises for me as I've worked on this.
Yeah, but
And
I'm pretty sure it's a French vision. It's not European.
no, it's very much in the Netherlands and in Germany.
Really?
Very small in Germany, but absolutely the French model, the French definition. Very much there, though, the primary focus in both those places is on libraries and then theater and museums, trying to turn them into
Yeah. And back,
third places, but it's also about money. It's the same thing, about funding. That
even bank try to do it. You saw that trend 3 years ago with bank as third places.
the bank?
Yeah, you didn't see that.
Which one? No.
Look, Virgin, for example, Caixa in Spain, there is something in Oregon, in United States. Just search banks as a third place.
Oh, I haven't. I think I've completely missed that. I don't remember
It's
okay, I will.
but
That's it that's so funny because I was thinking about just this morning about the kind of odd places that used to be third places in the little town where I live, like people in the post office. And then I was remembering there was a little bank office that we banked at. And my former husband used to go there and drop off because we got, things in the mail then, checks in the mail. And he would like to go there because the bank manager there was always ready to hang out and people would go and hang out at the bank.
yeah,
Um,
it's understandable. With the digital, the place where the bank building, there's no use for that. Nobody needs the
right.
bank, so they want the
Yes.
building, and so they want to create something where people can meet in the bank
Uh,
bank brand.
oh, that's so interesting because I've heard lots about with theaters and museums
Yeah,
trying to do this, but
cinema
the
with
similar thing because they have big buildings that are not in use a lot of the time. But I had not heard about it with banks, so I'm going to look at that. All right, another thing. Oh no, another thing to put in the book.
just a thing to say on third place in France with the public policy, because I was really excessive on what I was saying. It's starting to change. I mean, because the states no more give money no more.
Mhm, mhm,
The people who own that store place refine their own identity. Ref,
uh-huh,
they didn't tell no more what state wants to earn, but they tell why they create the store place.
uh-huh,
And that change is really interesting because you saw that people create some turn place in France for sociability, for political stuff.
mhm, mhm,
They don't create it for only for economy. When
mm.
states are arguing, please, we need a job, we need to create a startup, blah blah blah. They make all over their identity on that discourse.
Because they've been writing grant applications.
Exactly. And now
Yeah.
they are saying, no, no, we are really important for politics, we are really important for sociability, we are really important for social connection, etc.
Uh-huh,
And then they focus on that. So in a way, what happened in France with the public policy create this trend. And now
uh-huh,
you will see that there is more and more retail places. For sure, they are not cafe. All they have a cafe in their structure. They all have a cafe,
mhm,
but they create a lot of stuff, all other activity around the cafe,
uh-huh,
and they want
uh-huh,
to play this role of third place in their village or in their city, and
mhm,
that's good.
mhm. So you see things evolving in a way that might actually be
Yeah, yeah.
end up being a good thing.
Yeah, for me, the public policy create a misunderstand, but they create a trend. And you have a lot of
Uh-huh,
people that say, "Okay, I want to do something in my city, in my village. I will create a third places."
mhm,
They didn't at the beginning. They are saying, "Oh, what is a third places?" Okay, I go on the website of the states, blah blah blah. Oh, okay, third places is a hybrid place. Okay, they want for money. They want me to say that I will create 10 job, blah blah blah. Okay, I will create 10 job. Now
uh-huh,
this this finish, and they say, okay, we are here
mhm,
because we want to create social link. We want to rethink about the way, or on the way we eat.
Mhm.
we think about the way we create school, etc. So I think it's at the end it will be fine.
Great. I look forward to seeing how that develops, and one of these days I'll get back to you. I don't expect to be flying anywhere for the moment.
Yeah.
Um, but but with any luck, things will improve in
Yeah,
the next year. So perhaps in 2027, I can come and do some exploring, and I do hope to meet you that time. It's been great to talk to you again.
me too.
Please, yeah, just, please keep us posted, and we can talk when there are new developments.
It was a great
Um,
pleasure. Thank you very much, Karen.
Thanks very much. Thank you. Thanks for joining me at The Way We Live Now, where we roam the world for ideas and inspiration. Please leave a comment and subscribe to the newsletter at karenchristensen.substack.com.